Today we're going to be talking about active learning, but it's kind of important to think about why you might need active learning in the first place. We focus primarily on working with enterprises and companies of all sizes, really, that are usually getting into deep learning techniques, AI, ML, for the first time, and we see some common problems and pain points that across our customer bases. One of the first ones we see is customers struggling just to get going, just to get their first model up and into production. This is usually because they struggle to actually accumulate enough training data using manual, single user kind of data labeling techniques. They also typically try non-iterative model training, where they try to label all their data in one go and just do model at the end, modeling or training after that point. This will make more sense and what I mean by non-iterative. But even after they're able to train this first model, which takes a lot longer than they usually expect, then that's only the beginning of their problems, because now ongoing model maintenance kind of creeps up on them and is often a big problem. They realize that due to like data drift, where the real world data that they're predicting on is not like what they trained over, right? The model's losing accuracy over time. And even if they do have a mechanism for continually capturing new data to train over, they often struggle to redeploy in place in their production systems due to static model deployment techniques. So because a lot of these problems, really, that's the whole benefit of kind of using an AI ML platform such as the one that we provide at Clarify. Some of the main high-level benefits that you should expect to receive out of an AI platform really comes down to the ability to have end-to-end capabilities, like having labeling, training, and deployment tools all together seamlessly integrated. These are really the main things that you need to be able to continuously maintain your models and deployment, as well as having a host of different pre-built models these are kind of robust, generalized models that are trained over huge data sets that have a lot of great knowledge that you can use to your advantage. Ultimately, these end-to-end capabilities allow you to do iterative model training, seamless model deployment, as well as these pre-built models allow for advanced techniques like pre-labeling, using visual search to sift through your unlabeled data, and transfer learning. And so we'll see a little bit of that as well. Ultimately, these kind of capabilities allow you to go from more of a traditional supervised and maybe linear training process, right? Something where we label all our data in one go, we do training in kind of one stage, and then we just deploy a static model, to more of what we might consider like a semi-supervised or iterative approach, right? Relying on pre-built models to power pre-labeling and visual search, right? Then doing labeling from there, maybe in small batches. Maybe we only label 10%, and then we train an initial version of the model, and then we deploy that model, and we actually use that model to then augment the intelligence of those human labelers, right? So this is really what we refer to when we talk about active learning. And I'm just going to note right now that active learning has, you ask different people in the space, and maybe you're going to get different answers about what it means. It has a lot of overlap with different techniques, sometimes referred to, you might hear incremental learning, semi-supervised learning, continual learning, human in the loop, right? So this touches on a lot of different things, and depending on who you're asking, today we might be going over one of these different techniques. It might not be what you consider active learning, but this is kind of what we consider in our world as active learning. Specifically, we're going to look at how we set up active learning workflows within the platform that focus on augmenting this human knowledge with these iteratively trained models, using our built-in visual search techniques that are built on the pre-built models that we have, being able to distribute tasks to a big old labeling force, having AI assist that's based off of existing models that you've trained, right, to get this human in the loop kind of capabilities, quickly labeling those images, training and deploying that model, right, and then being able to turn around in like a continual learning fashion to collect real world images that it's seeing in production, label those, and continually maintain your model. Okay, so with all that said, I am going to hand things over to my colleague, Jeff. Jeff, are you there? Jeff, I think you're on mute, by the way.
All right. Can Can you hear me now?
Excellent, I can.
All right. Hey, everybody. Okay, so I'm excited to show this to you today. And what we're going to demonstrate is a specific use case. And this is something that you can set up yourself if you follow this pattern in about an hour, and under an hour, we think. The concept here is that you may want a visual detector that can help keep your workplace safe and compliant. Today we're going to set up a binary classifier that can identify someone as a construction worker versus not a construction worker. But you could maybe imagine in the future iterating upon this model and developing more sophisticated capabilities where you'd be able to identify specific safety equipment or other safety-related needs. So, so the basic approach that we're taking today is a three-step process. We're going to transfer train a detector, and this will be built up. So we're going to take the learnings from an existing Clarify model, the general detector, which is this wonderful Swiss Army knife of a model that can help get you started building your custom solution, building this custom solution, in our case, this workplace safety construction worker, not construction worker app. From there, we're going to show you how you can connect this model up to a stream of data using our collectors. And with this, you'll be able to ingest data into your application for continual learning. And then finally, we'll look at how to build this workflow that will enable this active learning pipeline. Okay. And so here's a further breakdown of the components we're going to be using. At a high level, there are going to be account-related components. You'll want to log in as a Clarify user, etc. Talked about the collector we'll be building, and then we'll be setting up a variety of custom models and then pre-built Clarify models. And then we're going to be placing these models within workflows which are containers that make our models easily usable within our apps. Okay. So with that, let's dive in. You would begin this journey on Clarify's website, clarify.com, and you just go here at the top and click Login. And it's free to set up an account, and I would encourage everybody to play around with what we're demonstrating today on their own. Once you log in, you'll go to this application overview page, and the first thing we'll do is just create our application, and this is the container for our project. And this will be able to include various models that we're going to build and the workflows that we talked about and the collectors. So today, let's call this our construction worker app. And we're going to be building this in English. You can add an optional description. This base workflow is a very useful tool that you're going to be able to set up right out of the gate that's going to help you index your data and make it easily usable immediately upon upload and indexing. And you'll see a bit more about how that works here in a minute. There's a lot of different options to choose from based on your specific use case, furniture detection, faces, and various other options. Today we're going to be just using the general detector to build our application. Okay, so we'll just hit create. And let's go ahead and open this up. And we're going to go into data mode, where we're going to be able to upload our inputs. And I've got a list of URLs that are going to point data mode to images that we're going to upload and use for the initial training of our apps. I'm just going to paste those there. And down here, you can see the individual images. And as they're added and indexed, we just get a little indication with a check mark. And what we've got here are a variety of images of people either construction workers or people who are not construction workers. And you'd be able to, just based on their appearance, you'd be able to judge this kind of thing. So you can see here's an example of not a construction worker. Okay. And so what we're going to want to do is create a couple concepts that we're going to be using to train our model on. And so let's just have our construction worker concept and just add it there. And let's have a non-construction worker concept and add it there and click done. From here, we're going to create our first custom model of the day. So what we can do is go over to this place called model mode and just click on that. And we're going to click up here, click create custom model. And what we're going to use to build on this pre-built model, this clarifies pre-built detector model, is what's called a context-based classifier. Okay, and we'll just call this our construction worker detector. And I'm going to give the model ID and display name the thing. Same name. We'll just click select all concepts to get those construction worker, not construction worker options selected. There are some other details that you can find out more about in our documentation. And from here, I'm just going to click create model. Okay. And now to train this model and create our first custom detector, we're going to want to label these images. There are a number of ways to do this. There's actually, I would say, 4 basic ways that this can be done in the Clarify platform. It can be done at upload time. It can be done once images are uploaded and you're viewing images here in Explorer. And you can see we can click on an image and click on detections. And this is right out of the box. Our detector is able to identify people and other objects. And we were just interested in the people, and we might just label this person as a construction worker and hit enter. Another option is we might say, okay, all this data is already indexed, and we can search based on semantic similarity. So the similarity visually of these different inputs. Let's take a look here. Choose a region to search within. And from here, we'd be able to bulk label those images. And if you can, from the selected images, you'd be able to click the checkbox and label selection as, and you could just label it as construction worker. Now, I've already done the task of going through all this data and labeling it, and I've already trained this model, which we do over here by just simply clicking train model. So let's switch over to the app where all of that data is prepared. So let's take a look at our train model here. By clicking view details, we can see some sample images, the construction worker data, the non-construction worker data, trained a couple different versions of the model. And we can see this ROC-OX score, which is a great high-level view on how well our model is performing. Okay, and then you can also dive into the model details for more insights and to help you further optimize and deconstruct what's going on with your model. All right. Now, what our end goal is going to be here is we're going to want to be able to create this data pipeline that's going to send our images that are being uploaded into our app to our scribe service for our approval. So it's going to pre-label the inputs, and then we're going to be able to approve the pre-labels. So what we would do is we'd want to create a task and give the task a unique name, and we're going to want to provide descriptions. Here we have a lot of documentation about creating and assigning tasks, so I would encourage you there again to go to documentation or to our YouTube channel for walkthroughs on the details there. But what we're going to want to grab at this point is this task ID so that we can then direct our annotation writer to send our pre-labeled inputs to the task so that we can review them later. All right, so this annotation writer is another custom model. So again, there will be several custom models we're going to want to build for this app. And so let's take a look at creating this annotation writer. Here it's in our custom model menu in model mode. And we're going to be able to create a name. We're going to want to set this output to annotation pending status. So it'll be recommending a label, and then we're going to approve it. And then from here, we're also going to want to include the task ID. And we want to input this as a valid JSON input. So this will look just like that. Okay. And from there, the other components from the custom model part of our project here is we're going to create a region thresholder. We're going to create a concept thresholder. And we're going to create a synonym mapper. And you'll see where these thresholders come into play once these models are connected into our workflow. And I'll show you that in a minute. And then we're going to want to create a synonym mapper that is a magical little connector that will help us take advantage of Clarify's knowledge graph. So this is where we're going to want to be able to connect our concepts to existing concepts in Clarify models. And again, we'll show you how that works when we connect it up. And then finally, we're going to want to create a random sampler that's going to be part of the workflow that goes into our collector app. And what we're going to be doing in this case, just for simplicity's sake, is we're going to create a random sampler that samples everything. So we're going to collect all the inputs that are available based on what's being processed by our detector model. And then from there, once we've created this random sampler, we'll just call this sample all. From there, we're going to want to add it to our collector. And from here, you can see you can add a collector within data mode. And we would just want to click New Collector. Okay, so from that random sampler, once it's created, the sample all collector, we're going to put it in within one of our containers and by creating a workflow. And let's just call this the sample all workflow. And that one had already been created for this app. And from here, let's go to create new collector. We'll just call this collector all scopes. Sorry, we're going to want to create an API key to control the data that can be collected by our collector. So this is the API key controls access. So we can create an API key that and then individually control the API inputs that can be accessed by our application. So that API key has already been created. And then we'll go over here to create our collector. And we'll call this collector all scopes. And description is basically just that it's going to collect all the inputs. For our pre-queue workflow, we're going to use our sample all workflow. And we're going to select our collect all scopes API key. We can control the caller, so the individual person calling the API, the individual user calling the API. In this case, we're just going to say any caller for simplicity. And then what we're going to be listening for, what we're going to be looking for is anybody who's calling our construction worker app that we've already created here. So we're going to select this, and then we just hit create. And from there, we've got a collector that's then going to collect every time somebody's making a prediction with our construction worker app. We're going to collect that image that the prediction was made on. So you can imagine once this model is deployed on the site, and maybe cameras are viewing construction workers and non-construction workers on the site, anytime a prediction is made, that input is grabbed, that image is grabbed and then brought into our app for further labeling and analysis. It's available in that way. And we can just switch it on and off here. So we have now primed the pump. We've been able to transfer train a detector quickly by using our general detector model and then adding some inputs, labeling those inputs, training the model. We've set up a collector so that we can get new inputs into our application. And now we want to take a look at how to actually build that data pipeline, the workflow that's going to take those new inputs, process them for us, and then send them to Scribe so that we can approve the labels. Okay, so the first step we're going to do is go back into model mode, create a workflow, and the first thing we're going to add is a clarify model. This is a pre-built model, not one of the custom models that you saw from the other menus. So you would want to select clarify here. We would want to select image as an input. Output would be image data, regions data image, regions data concepts. And from here, we would just select our people detector and add it to our workflow. Okay, now let's take a look at how all of these models would be connected. From here, you can select any pre-built clarified models or any of your own custom models, which is here under data strategy. So from the people detector, we're going to be sending our detected images of people to our synonym mapper, which is going to allow us to map this, map the concept of people that exists within our clarify application to our custom application. And then we're going to send this thing to a thresholder so that we can clear out the noise and only keep the detections that we're confident in. From there, we will crop out the images of the person, and then we're going to index those images that we've cropped out with our general embedding model. From there, once the general embedding is ready, we're going to use our context-based classifier that we've created at the beginning of the demonstration, the construction worker custom application. And from there, we're going to be able to decide whether or not this is a construction worker or a non-construction worker. And then we're going to send it through another thresholder, again, to reduce the noise. And then we can send it to a labeling task. And that's where we're finally going to be able to review the results of our auto annotation workflow. So let's take a look how that will work here. So as data is collected into the app, again, it's automatically indexed. And you will see the new inputs here in Explorer mode as they come in. And you can imagine that these would be inputs that are taken from our work site. And then if we go back to Scribe and take a look at our labeling tasks, we can take a look at the tasks that are assigned to me. I was assigning these tasks to myself in this case. So that's why you're going to see it set up that way. And then on the right-hand side, we see that construction worker was predicted for this given input. We see the region of the image that was predicted as a construction worker. We see here an image with multiple construction workers predicted. We see that the model missed one construction worker, and we can actually adjust the labels on the fly within Labeler just by dragging a bounding box over the person and clicking submit for review. And again, we can see other images that came in through the application and quickly review our results this way. Now, once you have all of this new label data coming in, you can retrain that model and improve its performance over time. And you can see that once all of the Inputs have been reviewed. There's no more labeling tasks there. And you can see here, here's a cropped out image of a construction worker. So just to review what we've talked about, our active learning workflow takes advantage of this collector functionality. We leverage thresholders to reduce the noise in our data set because we're going to get a lot of interesting things coming through our data pipeline based on cameras live on site. We're using our annotation writer to automatically write these annotations to our data set, and then we're able to verify the labels and continue to transfer learn on top of our existing models. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can find out more on our Clarify YouTube channel or at clarify.com.